One of those approaches is, leaders have the answers. They know what to do. So when I come to the table, my people are expecting me to act as a leader and have the answers and know what to do. That is one approach to the leader's role. Another component of this is, and people are expected to do what they're told. They just need a really good plan and they need good instructions. So people do what they're told. They just need a good plan and instructions. And the bigger the problem, the higher up the food chain it needs to go. So high risk requires high control. And as things get more complex, power needs to shift toward the top or toward the center, depending on what your map looks like. So we would call that heroic leadership. And our viewpoint is that this has outlived its usefulness and is inconsistent with the kind of world that organizations are trying to adapt within and actually make change occur in the world that we live in today. So is there an alternative to heroic leadership? We would argue that there is. And it is leaders set conditions and guide processes. Conditions influence behavior. If there's anything you take away from today, I'd like for it to be that. The conditions we set influence the behavior that we see. So leaders set those conditions and then guide processes for people to work more closely together. So the job is to fundamentally create a set of conditions and steer processes as opposed to people. Steer processes for people to work more closely together. Offer support for the other without directing their action. This is more than subtle. Offering support might be the utilizing of a question. How might I be helpful? Is a way of offering support without directing the action of the other person. And this isn't my phrase, but I like it. A way to understand this is thinking about being in service to the people on that map without being in charge of the people on that map. So how can I be in service without being in charge? Insist everyone, including yourself, it all starts at home, right? Insist everyone, including yourself, is learning from their experiences. So I want to go back to Bennis again, the sidebar we did earlier, and just remind you again of his 4 rules for becoming a leader. I'm going to utilize the one we used first here and say, as it relates to what we were talking about, accepting responsibility, accept responsibility, blame no one. But here's the other 2 that are consistent, I think, with the 3rd bullet you're seeing here is, you are your own best teacher, so therefore take responsibility for your learning, and you can learn anything you want to learn. I find that organizations are really struggling and leaders really struggle with a tension, being pulled in one direction for expediency. We've got to get it done because we're here to change the world. And being pulled in another direction, what are we learning from what we are doing that will make us better at doing this work and having greater impact in the future? That's a tension. I don't believe that tension should be dissolved. I just think we need to recognize it's there and not play to one side of that tension or the other. We've got to be expedient because the world needs changing, for gosh sakes. And our organizations are designed and equipped and mandated to do that. So therefore, expedience matters. At the same time, if we are not learning through the doing, it's like somebody says, oh, I've got 25 years of experience. And somebody else might say, yeah, and I've observed you over that 25 years. Basically, you have 1 year of experience that you've repeated 25 times. So I think there's some real guidance in what Bennis is saying here about you can learn anything and take responsibility for your own learning. So we would call this kind of leadership facilitative leadership, where leaders set conditions and guide processes, offer support without directing, and offer service without being in charge. We don't need to tell people what to do. What we need to be is be in service of what they are motivated to do, and insist that everyone, including yourself, is learning from their experience. So what we would offer here is our first strategy, if you want to be less alone as a leader, is to move from a heroic leadership position toward a more facilitative stance.